Iwapo unaungana nasi sasa hivi, basi tunakuja kwako moja kwa moja kutoka chuo kikuu cha Daystar hapa jijini Nairobi. Mdahalo wa leo ukiwa ni masuala ya ufanyaji biashara humu nchini na baadhi ya changamoto ambazo zinazidi kuwakumba wafanyaji biashara mbalimbali, sawa na suluhu ambazo zinatumainiwa kuwa za kudumu katika jitihada za kuhakikisha kuwa taifa la Kenya linapiga hatua mwafaka za kiuchumi. Mwanahabari wetu Dorcas Nangira pia aliweza kuzungumza na baadhi ya wafanyaji biashara wadogo wadogo na kutuandalia taarifa ifuatayo. Hebu tuisikize.
We're here in Mfangano Street in downtown Nairobi, and I'm going to meet Martin, a 25-year-old entrepreneur who's been running his business for 2 years. Martin Masharia is 25. He runs Elegante Designs. He makes bespoke suits and Ankara wear for men. He's been running the business for 2 years. On average, in a month, he makes between 60,000 to 80,000 shillings. 15,000 goes to rent, 2,000 for power. And the profit for him and his staff. His business is growing. Close to 500,000 do not make it past the second-year mark.
One thing that I can say is a challenge is getting loans, especially from the commercial banks.
On 16th October, President Kenyatta made a public promise to put in place various measures that will ensure the SMEs in our country are protected and they too enjoy the benefits and the ease of doing business. What does this mean for Martin?
It's really a good initiative that they are about to make happen. So I'd like there to be follow-up.
To Mfangano Street, and we're heading to Kariobangi North to meet with another entrepreneur. And even as we drive towards there, we are at Kamkunji, and we can see a lot of people working in the Juakali sector.
SMEs have almost 5 or 6 challenges, very broadly. 1 is access to finance. 2 is access to markets. 3 is lack of information. And a 4th would be maybe lack of management skills. So I think if you're able to address systemically some of these challenges, then probably it's easier for now to an SME to start because the environment now is conducive.
We head over to Kariobangi to meet Johnson Kamau, who has run the Muharata Food Company since 1983.
Where we turn out our products.
According to the 2014 National Economic Survey report by the CBK, 80% of the 800,000 jobs created in that year came from the informal sector dominated by SMEs. Muharata Food Processors was established in Kariobangi Light Industry in 1983 with an estimated capital of 100,000 shillings. Kamau retired at the age of 33 and used his pension funds to start a family business. They supply agri-machinery such as this defeathering machine, as well as food processing machines. In a good year, the turnover reaches 120 million shillings. However,
the main challenges are in reaching out to the market. We face the typical problems that a small business would face. For example, to our neighboring countries offer certain challenges which we sometimes find it difficult, and because sometimes we need the assistance of government.
According to KEPSA 2018, the government owes SMEs 200 billion shillings for services and goods supplied. Kamau, whose business is in the maturity stage, has words of advice for businesses like Martin's that are still in the introduction stage.
The secret behind success in business is, first of all, you must have an idea and you distill the idea. A business must be researched. You must be absolutely sure what you are going to do. And then you must be prepared to do it over the long haul.
Dorcas Wangira, Citizen TV.
All right, sobering perspectives there from Dorcas Wangira. And one of the things that Dorcas' story illustrates is the fact of access to capital. I think that's what it is called. And Victor, you have talked a lot about this whole issue of access to capital. Why is it difficult for businesses to get money? And from what you have observed and the ones that you've talked to, where are they getting their money to start the small businesses that they are doing in different parts of the country?
Thank you. I think what we need to understand, again, based on what you need to understand first is the stages through which a business goes through. A business that is starting out cannot get bank finance. It means that they need to get finance from an alternative source. What is happening in Kenya is the conversation is always centering around financial institutions as the only source of financing for SMEs. Okay, and we refuse to have any other discussion other than banks. And banks are getting a lot of pressure. Yet banks are in business to, their profit making. We did a survey recently, I think 2 months ago, which was talking about alternative financing, alternative access to finance for SMEs. And if you look at, for example, chamas in this country, there are so many chamas across the country. And talking to them, you realize that most chamas are sinking a lot of their money in buying land because they don't have alternative investment options that are out there. And SMEs are one. And most of them were saying, if SMEs can put their act together, we can give them credit. And basically, in technical terms, those are what we call angel investors. We don't have to copy paste maybe US models or European models in terms of formally having angel investors for small businesses, private equity, and the likes. But we can customize our own. And for me, the hypothesis that we're putting out is, can we start talking to wealthy individuals, the Chris Kirubis and the likes? They have money that if you can prove yourself worthy of investment, they're willing to put money into your business. So for me is, can we have that wider discussion around financing SMEs at the different stages of their growth?
Are you saying we are talking too much about banks and they are not living up to the number of conversations we have about them? We've had many banks talking about the amount of lending or the amount of work, as it were, the amount of support. That is the word that I hear a lot. The amount of support they give to small businesses. Are you saying that's not bearing out?
There are two sides of a coin. Banks are saying they are lending to SMEs. But the question that we're asking have you gone out to SMEs and asked them, where are you getting financing for your businesses? And we did that. And most SMEs would say, we are either getting money from our own savings or we are getting from family and friends. Very few, maybe if you're talking about medium enterprises, which are a bit grown up, they have accumulated a bit of assets and have collateral, those are the people that actually can access banks. Because if you look at the way banks lend, it's collateral based. So for a small enterprise that is starting off, has barely nothing, they have nothing to show going to a bank. So can we have discussions around alternative financing for this small business? Because they still need capital.
Engineer Obath, speak for the banks now. You are all we've got. The closest we are getting to the banks right now.
Full disclosure, I actually do. I do serve on a bank's board, but I think there are specific issues around relying on banks. The way banks are structured, especially banks that are quoted on the stock exchange, they have a responsibility to the people who have invested in the banks. So they have to meet certain parameters in terms of getting returns for the banks. There has been a lot of discussion around the sort of the interest rates and so forth and so on. Interest rates were controlled by the government, which is fine. And but what has happened is the same government that is now borrowing the same money. So you're finding that if you look at borrowing by the government, 50% is outside of Kenya, 50% is local money. And that local money is being mopped up from the banks, because as a banker, I will look at that at the security of where I'm putting that money, and the government is a very good security. So if I compare that to a risk, what I consider to be a risky investment, I'd rather put my money in the government. So I think there needs to be a completely relook at the way the financial environment in Kenya is structured.
What does that mean in English?
There is also, let me finish my hypothesis. There is also the requirement that the small and micro enterprises need also to be taught how to present their businesses. A lot of the instances, somebody has an idea and they want to go into business. and they think it will make money because they've seen it happening, and so they just start a business. But what any lender will look at, it doesn't matter whether it's a bank, a microfinance, or whatever it is am I going into something that is risky? So the person who's coming to borrow has to present a credible case to me for me to be able to lend them that money. Sometimes it is because I've started small and it works, and I can show you how it is working, then I'm willing to take a risk and give you that money without collateral. That's a key thing. The other thing that needs to develop in this country is what you call credit reference bureaus. Now, a lot of people, you tell them CRB, they cringe in fear because they think that going there, they will report the fact that you're a bad person. But the other thing, and this is my personal experience.
Which they do, actually.
They do that, but the other side of it is if you have been a very good person for a very long time, you can go and take the same information and go to a place and say, I am a good payer. I have been paying back regularly. I have been doing everything else. My record has been clean for 1 year. I am a good risk for you. So I think that we just need to do a little bit more, register there and be good citizens, and we can begin to get money.
Let me finish with you, Bwana Macharia. This is something that surely should concern you, because if you cannot access capital, there's no business you're going to start. You cannot expand your business. So what is that simple answer that you can give to people who are saying, how do we do business in this country when the banks are saying, oh, you guys are too risky, the government is a safer bet, and you can't keep going to friends and family and all of that and say you want to start a business?
Yes, I want to agree with Victor and also Obad about the fact that the biggest losers in MSCs are those who are starting, because many times you have nothing to show in terms of, if you go to a bank, they will tell you, I want a 6-month bank statement to show that there has been transactions, and I agree with you. But I think for the government, there are various funds that are there to try and even go around the issues of collateral, because that is another large elephant that affects MSCs. For us as an authority, we have encouraged the associations, because I talked about us working with associations. What we have done is that associations that are very vibrant, that are very active, we have worked with the Department of Cooperative to mobilize these MSCs to come together and form circles. So they are able to mobilize their own resources and they lend to each other, other than now thinking about to go to maybe a third party for that. So I think that is one step that we need to encourage.
All right,
MSCs.
that's a good point to go back to the floor and hear about what the experiences are, even with that issue of capital and other things.
Kabisa, thank you Joe. Tuangazie sasa sekta ya uchukuzi, na kuna wale ambao wamewakilisha sekta ya uchukuzi wa bodaboda na pia sekta ya matatu. Nitatoa nafasi mbili, mmoja kwa wenye bodaboda na mwingine kwenye matatu, alafu kuna wale ambao wako sekta ya burudani na kuna ma DJ ndani ya nyumba, pia kuna mmoja wepo ambaye ni binti na ni DJ pia, na mawili matatu ya kutuelezea. Labda sekta ya bodaboda tuanze nawe.
Jambo. My name's Harry Seth. I'm in the sector of Boda Boda. I want to ask one question, and I think it will touch all the panelists. Swali langu ni kwamba mtafanya nini kuhusu these oppressing laws? There are oppressing bylaws that are pushing small business traders out of business. The laws are not helping them to do business, but they are pushing them out of business. They are very much oppressing. This is like Boda Bodas. You are in town, you are not allowed to go in town to take to carry any passenger. You are not allowed to pass town. You are pushed down. And then the operating bylaws are also making corruption very easy to operate under corruption than to operate under the laws. Like corruption, when they push you down with a boda boda, you will give 5,000, they say they have helped you. If you are taken to court, you wonder whether the magistrate was told to fine you 40,000, and then you go back to Kanjo, the motorbike they will charge you 2,000 per day for 14 days. That is 28,000. Now those laws are pushing away these small traders from business, and it is not helping. It is making corruption even better than the laws themselves. So Macharia, what do you do? I've never heard of you. I wonder what you normally do. So please help us.
Shukran sana. Huyo ni Harry Seth anazungumzia sheria ambazo labda ni oppressive, zinawakandamiza hawa hudumu wa matatu. Sijui kama Macharia utajibu swali hilo kwanza, alafu tutarudi kwa wenye matatu nao waweze kuuliza swali yao.
Yeah, and I wanted to tackle, because it's raising interesting things, but also please spend a bit of time on that issue of corruption, because a lot of people, I'm seeing conversations that people are having online as well. People are saying, hey, there are all these other things, but what about corruption? Yes.
Said pole sana kwa oppressed by the laws that we make. Nafikiri jambo la msingi na la muhimu ni kwamba sheria zozote zinapotengezwa siku hizi, katiba inaturuhusu ile tunaita public participation. You should be part of that process of, and the issues of self-regulations are much better than when I sit here and decide I want to create this law to create harmony. But I think also for every sector, whether it's boda boda, whether it's matatu, or any other business for that matter, there is need also for order. Because again, if you allow everything to happen, you are also creating some disorder to other people. So, but for me, I think the take home is that when laws are being created, and again, I focus on people coming together, what Patrick is saying, federating together, coming together, so that when you have those oppressive laws, you are able to go to the county government of Nairobi, for example, and tell them, we don't think this is the right thing, but we have solutions to it. Solutions should come from the people themselves and not probably the people sitting on this side. Of course, I think the issues of corruption, they strand every other sector, and it's not only the boda, and I think that is something we need to tackle head on. It is not about government or any individual. We are all involved in it, and we need to play our role. Even refusing to give that bribe is one way of saying, afadhali ulale siku mbili, but you stand firm and say, I'm not giving out this bribe. That will be a beginning.
Oh, okay. So let's just get back some questions.
Kabisa, tuangazia sasa waendeshaji matatu na wamiliki wa matatu. Umezungumzia mambo ya order ama mpangilio bwana Macharia, na tunajua kuwa mmekuwa mkimulikwa sana, manake inasemekana mnakosa nidhamu na pia mnakosa mpangilio unapofika ni masuala ya uchukuzi. Mna yepi ya kusema?
Kwa majina naitwa Mr. John Mwangi Chege. Itifaki zimehifadhiwa. Mimi ni mwekezaji kwenye urban transport. Nimewekeza katika madaradara yanayosafiri kutoka Ongata to Nairobi City Center, na pia nimewekeza Dar es Salaam City na Kigali. Mimi ningetaka kusema kwamba naona mji wetu wa Nairobi umekibia kwa mbio sana, ila the policy makers kidogo ni kama wamechelewa in terms of infrastructures. Tunajikuta saa zingine hii disorder inatokana na kwamba we don't have designated pick up and drop off points. Kwa hivyo zile zipo ni temporary kidogo, lakini tunashukuru sababu tunaona kwamba labda kuna mwelekeo hapo mbele pale tunaenda. Ila nipeleke swali kuu kwa engineer, nikuulize hivi, imechelewa lakini mwisho tumesikia inakuja mabasi ya mwendo kasi. Je, ndio tuwe na order? Sisi kama wadau, investors in the circles, tupo wapi? Ama tutabaki na sisi tukiambia tukure kwa macho, au tutaraidi boda boda? Because we are the wajikos in the sector. Thank you very much.
Shukran sana, labda waweze kutoa majibu kwa hoja hiyo.
Patrick, that was direct.
Okay. Shukrani kwa hiyo swali. Wajua vile wakati Michuki alileta hii Michuki rules, alielekeza ya kwamba wale ambao walikuwa kwenye sehemu ya matatu watengeze SACCOS. Kiwango cha pili ambaye alikuwa na tumaini itakuwako ni ya kwamba badala ya kila mwanachama awe na gari yake mwenyewe, hizo gari zingeuzwa, alafu SACCO ikawa kama investment society, ikaanza kununua mabasi. Hasa wale ambao walikuwa wanaendesha magari, kazi yao ilikuwa kwa nyumbani, wanapata riziki kutoka hapo kwenye hizo kazi. Nafikiri tukielekea upande huo itakuwa safi. Sababu sasa kutakuwa na mabasi kubwa, lakini wale ambao walikuwa wanaendesha matatu watakuwa pia bado wana biashara, lakini si biashara ya kufanya kibinafsi. Chama ndio itakuwa inafanya biashara. Na yao ni kupata watakuwa wakipata mavuno kila mwisho wa mwaka, katikati ya mwaka namna hiyo. Na nafikiri hivyo ndio, tukiendelea kwenda hivyo tutaanza kuona uboreshaji ya maisha hapa Nairobi. Lakini tukiendelea vile tulivyo sasa, nafikiri tutaendelea kuwa na tabu, tutaendelea kuwa na hiyo maneno ya corruption na vitu kama hivyo, sababu kama ni kibinafsi kila mtu atajaribu kujifanyia kazi. Na hapo wataanza kuchukua shortcuts. Na kuchukua shortcuts, polisi atapata nafasi ya kuja kunini ya kushika watu. Lakini kama ni basi atapata ya kwamba basi haina makosa, sababu imetengezwa vizuri, inaendeshwa vizuri, so huyo ufisadi utaanza kupungua. So nafikiri imbakia kila sekta kujipanga vizuri na kupunguza hiyo maneno ya ufisadi, lakini pia wataweza kufanya biashara kwenye namna ambayo wanaweza kupata mavuno vizuri.
Shukran sana mhandisi Patrick. Na kuna uwiano ama uhusiano maalum sana kati ya matatu na burudani. DJ Melo ni mojawapo wa wasanii ambao julikana sana na kutambulika humu nchini, na pia yeye ana yake ya kusema. Nadhani kuwa sekta yao ya burudani pia inaathirika kwa njia moja ama nyingine. Tumpe nafasi.
Asante Gunza. Hello everybody. My name is DJ Melo. Nina swali. Na swali ni to the panel. Sisi kama ma DJ tunajua bila DJ hakuna muziki, ama bila DJ hakuna watu kwa dance floor. Sasa watu wa NEMA wanatusumbua sana. Wanakuja wanatuambia DJ lazima uende na sisi, utakaa na sisi kwa cell from Friday to Monday. They take your equipment, they take your tools of trade. Wakikosa DJ kwa booth, wanachukua waiter, wanachukua askari. What do we do?
Kwa nini? What is the problem?
The problem is that they are saying that we are making a lot of noise for people, and us, we are doing DJing as a business. It's bringing money for us.
Okay.
Tarudi kwangu pia.
No, we can take it generally.
Okay. Kitu ngauliza, kwenye kila mahali ambayo mnafanya kazi huwa kuna license ya kutoka NEMA, sivyo? Na hiyo license mnayo mkononi. So akija kuwashika huwa wakati mkifanya kazi, mkionyesha hiyo license wanafanya nini? Wanasema hiyo license haifai. Ndio sasa vile tulisema mbeleni, kama mkiwa na chama, kila wakati hiyo kifanyika mnasema tulikuwa na license, kulikuwa na hii, wakafanya hivi. Mara 3 mara 4 mnaweza kuchukua chama chote mkaenda kwa minister, alafu mnamueleza license hii nyinyi ndio mlitoa. Sasa mbona mleta tena polisi waje watushike? Na chama imesemaje? Hiyo ndio kitu muhimu, sababu chama kama haina uwezo basi hiyo tungependa kujua, sababu kama KEPSA tunaweza kuwasaidia.
Tuna chama na tuli propose all these agendas and they haven't taken any action yet. Kwa sababu hata ni kitu hata air even on social media. Yes.
Kitu ningeomba kama kuna vitu kama hivyo, tukimaliza saizi unipe contacts za wakuu wa chama, alafu naweza kusaidia kwenda kusema na serikali. Sababu kama kuna license, kama kuna vitu kama hivyo, haifai watu wakuja kusimamisha kazi kama license imepeanwa.
Okay, na pia kuna DJ Euphoric hapa hivi ambaye pia anatambulika sana.
Kwa majina naitwa DJ Euphoric. Actually I'm the only DJ on a wheelchair in Africa. So my question is we have talked about capitals to start a business or something. Let me use myself as an example. Nikianza ku DJ normally the DJ equipment are very expensive, and it's the way of me earning my own living. It's the same way mtu wa boda boda anatumia boda boda to get the living, unaona. So tumeongea about funds, is tuna youth funds, tuna women fund. Is there maybe something like disability fund, whereby at least someone can get to get some fund to start this on?
Okay, Bwana Masharia, you can actually go after, because he's asking about a fund for persons with disability.
Well, I don't think there is a specific fund targeting the people with disabilities, but I think they are taken care of as, you know, youth fund, women fund, and also Wezo. They are all affirmative funds, and I think he is either a youth, he is either a women, or within the Wezo fraternity. Okay. For now, I think that is something that people maybe we need to think seriously about. For people like him who are doing something worthwhile in terms of enterprises, and he needs that support.
Okay, some thoughts that I'm seeing here. Pride of Kenya says we need to be honest. The government's commitment to reducing the barriers is clear. The biggest issues remain corruption and defaulting of payment by government. That's Pride of Africa. There's also someone else who has a different view. Kamau Samuel says, I'm an entrepreneur and I cannot relate with that study by the World Bank. The cost of doing business is so high, from registration of businesses to punitive business permits, not forgetting KRA with their unending taxes, fines and penalties, clean cooking. The ease of doing business for foreigners has improved exponentially. They get preferential treatment, they don't pay import taxes and duties and get tax holidays. It is outrageously difficult for Kenyans to do big business in Kenya. Officials prefer foreigners. That is interesting thought there. He says, there was one more here that is directed at Engineer Obath, and he says Engineer Obath has just insulted SME and Juakali rank and file with what he's peddling. We have primary and national apex organizations with popular participation across the board. So they're saying they have organizations there. So saying you're peddling something that is not true. So interesting perspectives there. I don't know whether there's anything you want to say about that, because I want us to discuss that issue of corruption, which some people have mentioned here. There is the thinking, first of all, that index does not even talk about issues of corruption, but small businesses and big businesses all deal with issues of corruption. There are rules that are there to be followed, there are taxes that are there to be paid, but there's always someone who will come and say, you know, this thing is very serious, but we can sort it out here. Engineer Obath, there was a time that KEPSA had some, even drafted, I think, some bill that you were discussing. I wonder where, from a business standpoint right now, that whole question of corruption is. Then I'll come to you, Victor, to get some real experiences that you can share.
Okay. I think from the question of ethics and the different organizations, I think there's probably some organizations that are probably working very well, but there's 1,800. And if you have 300-400 that are not working well, those are the ones that stand out. So my apologies for those who are good and who are operating ethically. We salute you. But there's a lot that are not operating properly. So I think that should put that to rest. I think on corruption, we have a major national issue. And the ease of doing business does not measure corruption in any of the indices that are there.
Mm-hmm.
So
is that a problem, according to you?
It is a problem. Mm-hmm. Right? And when you heard the president talking about the big 4 plus 1, that one is about the battle on corruption. And that underpins everything around the big 4 agenda. The private sector, when we actually did the anti-corruption bill, anti-bribery bill, sorry, that was on the recognition at a point in discussion that it takes 2 to tango. So the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission was dealing with the guys who have been bribed. But who was bribing? It was the private sector, as we saw it. So we actually took it upon ourselves and paid for the actual drafting of that bill, the Anti-Bribery Bill, to ensure that if any of our members or anybody else who is not even a member bribes, there is now legislation that will take care of them. So the legislation is there. We are not enforcers of legislation. We understood how bribery was happening in our section, and we created a law that was actually going to punish people.
Okay.
So we've taken care of it, but we really, the key thing is we need enforcement of laws. And that is even in the ease of doing business. A lot of the improvements have been because of the improvements in legislation and regulations and so forth. The next stage is actually implementation. And that, I think, is where we as a country are not doing very well, and we need to do that, especially in the area of corruption.
Victor, where is this corruption conversation when you speak to the small businesses?
I wanted to address his DJ Euphoric's question, in the sense that I would play the devil's advocate in this instance. What we see, again, interacting with SMEs is also some sense of laziness, in the sense that if you, let's say, for example, walk on Jogoo Road, you would see almost 10 to 20 car washes. Yeah, we are lazy in the sense that we don't want to work in creating workable business models. Yeah, there's a saying that says that money follows ideas. Whenever I hear someone saying I need money to start a business, I know they're not meant to be in business, because with a good business model, the idea itself should be able to attract funds. And sometimes it's not that you need money. For example, I'll give you an example. I've tried to do boda boda, and what I realized with the boda boda sector is there are people who are willing to do the work, but they don't have funds. What do? They come to an investor like Victor, tell them, okay, now buy for me a boda boda, I will pay you this much, 500 shillings, 600 shillings. So they lease it for a year. After a year, they do it. So there are innovative ways of doing business where you don't actually need hard cash. So I think also as SMEs, we need to come away from the mentality that we always need to be helped. We need a fund for us. So I think we also need to just look at that. So we are scientific in the way we do business. Before I start, for example, the DJ, did we really do our own research to find out what kind of licenses are there? On one hand, you can say there are many licenses, but do you know them? So that when you are picked up by Kanjo or by an askari, sometimes you feign ignorance, but ignorance is not an excuse for doing business.
Okay, so we'll come back to the floor just one last time, then we'll come here and give some final thoughts on our way forward, because there are many people listening to us, watching us tonight, who want to get some glimmer of hope in what seems to be a very grim situation. Yes, Patrick.
Ya, labda tutoe tu fursa hii kwa wanafunzi ambao pia wamejumuika nasi siku ya leo. Kuna mmoja anajiita Kambo Matindi kuhusiana na masuala ya sheria na kile ambacho alitaja kwa practicality ya mambo kama haya ya ease of doing business.
Thank you, Gonza. My name is Kambo Matindi. I'm a student here at Daystar. My question was with regard to the practicality of this report. The report is heavily biased towards regulation and policy. But in terms of, as we've been discussing, when it comes to the practical aspect of doing business, there are some missing links. For instance, if you're dealing with the inefficiencies caused by either, is it corruption, is it maybe some lack of cooperation between government agencies? How do we address such issues to make sure that the next time this report is released next year, and for the guys who are seated here, who are in the boda business or whatever business they are in, even seated at home, they can see the link between the ease of doing business, the practicality of actually doing business in Kenya, and also the most important thing, the cost has gone down for all business people. Thank you.
Shukran sana. Josijui lingine swali lingine moja ama
there's one here. This gentleman has been trying to
Uni mzito wa boda boda.
My name is Kenneth. I'm the chairman for boda boda operators in this city. There is only one question that I wanted to maybe to ask Mr. Patrick concerning the issue of there is an act, the NTSA Act concerning transport sector, especially the motorcycle industry, that actually points out about areas, the relevant county government setting out areas of operations, because as we are talking right now, many of the operators have been completely ejected from the CBD, but they have not been given specific areas where they need to operate, and some of them park dangerously around the roundabouts. Some of them actually go on opposite directions just because it is not very clear from both the national and the county government. Now, directly to KEPSA, do we have, as border operators with the organization, to be a member of KEPSA for you guys also to speak out on our behalf? Because some of us have tried, and just to support what Victor was talking about concerning unsupportive government policies that does not support small and medium SMEs, we are not supported completely, and the fines are so punitive. When you are arrested, yet you have not been told you are moving you from here and you are placing you there, because it's the government have set some standard ways of because right now, just shortly,
your question is done. Thank you.
Thank you.
You made the point.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. So, gentlemen, we are going to do it this way because we have to end this show. So, as we answer this, so Patrick, because that was directed at you, will end your comments for tonight. Answer that question, and if you have anything else, in 20 seconds we finish. You say it there or forever remain silent.
Okay, let me start. I think the two questions are questions that need a lot of discussion. You are right. The issue of the ease of doing business is not granular to the average Kenyan. And because it doesn't measure the granularity that we have. We need to develop sub-national indices that measure exactly what I've heard from everybody here, that you're not feeling the ease of doing business. That is outward looking to bring in investment. We need to develop indices in Kenya that actually says to each of you that yes, I can feel that things have improved. And that includes the border sector. Obviously, there are certain requirements that have to be put into place to ensure there is some form of order, especially in the CBD or in crowded centers of cities. For example, just to illustrate, there are no lanes specifically for motorcycles, for example. Do we need to start talking about having specific lanes where borders can operate so that they are operated away from vehicles that keep knocking them and closing the area? I think it's a wider discussion that needs to take place so that there is an environment that is positive for borders to operate. So in parting, I think for me the key thing here is the ease of doing business is opening up the fact that we need to have a national conversation around our culture of doing business and the culture of the government of dealing with business. And if we have that conversation, I think we'll go very far.
Thank you very much, Victor. How do we get out of all of these things that we have been talking about so that we unlock what seems to be the great potential that is held by these businesses?
I think as a country, one, we need to do a proper diagnosis and mapping of SMEs. Like I said, the way we take national census seriously is the way we should take SMEs seriously. That's one. Two is probably, like I mentioned, we already have done a prototype of an index, what we call an SME index, focusing on pain points that SMEs are facing. Access to finance, access to markets, policy, so that we gauge ourselves against these pain points, so that we can know if SME sector is going forward or stagnating.
All right, Bwana Macharia, let's finish with you. How do we get out of this situation? You are the man with the plan.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for the audience and viewers. I think MUSEA is committed to, MUSEA is Micro and Small Enterprise Authority, in short, is committed to...
Because he said he's never heard of you. So.
Yes, that's what I want to address. I think I want to tell Seth and the team and viewers that we are in all the counties. We have representation. We have officers on the ground. In Nairobi, we have an officer at Nyayo House. And whenever you have issues that you think the authority needs to address, feel free to visit us. Our headquarters are Utalii House, 10th floor. you visit us. We have various interventions that we do to MSEs, including promoting market access, the issues of providing some bit of infrastructure. I said we have 400 work sites in the whole country, and sometimes we need to work around that and see who can fit where depending on the businesses that they do. Allow me, Joe, to mention that we are also implementing a World Bank project targeting the youth age of 18 to 29, from 4 and below in terms of education in 17 counties. We are giving small grants of 40,000 to these youths to start small businesses, and besides that we are having 2 other subcomponents, because ours is about support for job creation. For the graduates for university who are beyond the 29, and also the education level is high, and outside that we have a business plan competition that we are running. So they can participate in that.
Thank you. I'm sure you'll have a lot of people looking for you after this, and that's a good place to end this conversation. It has been Citizen Town Hall coming to you live from Daystar University this week. Remember, this is a show that we have here on Citizen TV every Monday night to focus on the big issues that are shaping the news agenda and conversations in our country. So from me, Joe Agayo, is his good night. My colleague Patrick Igunza has also been somewhere akizungumza na
wazito wote wa mtaa. Sio design, kilicho na mwanzo lazima kiwe na mwisho, na hapo ndio meli yetu itaweza kutia nanga. Natumai sote tumeweza kufurahia, japo muda umekuwa mfupi, si wote wameweza kupata fursa ya kuuliza maswali, lakini kumbukeni kwamba Jumatatu ijayo tutakuwa na mdahalo mwingine. Labda topic itabadilika, lakini nyote mnakaribishwa. Kama mmefurahia, kwa ishara ya makofi basi tuweze kuonesha. Shukran sana. Wananiita Patrick Igunza. Muwe na usiku mwanana.